Well, I guess why Character X matters might as well be a channel series now. The Majin Boo Arc gets a bad rap for what are often misconstrued talking points, as I've gone into before concerning its climax. The same applies for many of its characters, and today I'll be focusing on what's probably its most overlooked in Son Goten. It's no small secret that Goten's initial purpose was to keep Goku's iconography with him removed from the plot, though this isn't something that makes Goten worthless when focus was placed on him after it was apparent Goku would be returning. This is important when considering some wider themes of the arc, as there's a clear back-to-basics approach to things such as the more comedic and fantastical tone, compared to the DBZ era's more serious and science fiction-oriented narrative, with the return of childhood Goku's image being a more subtle way at dog-whistling this to the audience than some realise. Goten being viewed as a Kid Goku clone is what actually makes his character work for reasons similar to what I've discussed in my video on Goku Jr., in highlighting how drastically differences in nature and nurture impact them. Goten is Goku's nature of finding fun in battle in the confines of a traditional rural child's living situation, with what could be moulded into the perfect Budo ideals of his father, instead being morphed into a child's perspective of finding fun in competing against friends. This leads into what made Gotenks unworthy of defeating Boo, as I've mentioned before, lacking the experience to get serious against his foe when the time was right, due to having been coddled by the comforts of their peaceful environment, in an inversion of how the same caused Gohan to initially lack the courage to face Nappa and Vegeta, with all this showing why Goku's return to the story's third act was necessary. On the subject of peaceful living, perhaps the most important and controversial part of Goten's inclusion is why he's as strong as he is, with his lack of experience. Obviously, the importance of genetics, in Saiyan Earthling hybrids especially, can't be understated, with the Z era making it obvious from the start, in an angry 4-year-old Gohan surpassing any power prior to Raditz. But some will question why Trunks was even stronger than Goten, when we saw how much weaker his future self was. This links back to what I've said before on how S-cells consistently tie into the manga, presenting that a peaceful environment with strong competitiveness helps Saiyans tap into the potential better than harsh ones, with the ideas of attaining a peaceful mind being important to the Buddhist and Taoist concepts ingrained into the series. A perfect example of this is not only comparing the two main versions of Trunks, but how Piccolo's strict Shugyo was detrimental to Gohan tapping into his potential, compared to the more nurturing methods Goku had with him. And, more relevant to this video, Chi-Chi providing a balance of general nurturing with sparring. Parental nurturing is also important for the future timeline, in Trunks having to learn from a Gohan whose experience under Piccolo and going off memories of his father made his knowledge on how to tap into his latent power quite incomplete, but more on that will have to wait until the video focusing on him. It's through the changes shown in Chi-Chi's character after the Cell game that we see another purpose of Goten in helping display dynamic changes in Chi-Chi's arc that otherwise would have gone unnoted, as I've mentioned in a video praising Chi-Chi's character. Going back to Goten's ties to Gohan and Trunks, the segments involving him going along with Trunks' hijinks, such as the Mighty Mask situation, as well as their interactions during the fight against 18, help tie Goten to his older brother, in these moments of meekness being much like how a younger Gohan wasn't assertive and mainly went along with what those around him wished, beyond the rare important moments, showing Goten as close to a middle ground between his father and brother's personalities, in a less overt way than Goku Jr. in GT. This is made further apparent by his manner of speaking displayed best by Nozawa Masako in the anime, with it not being quite as formal and refined as Gohan's, though still less rural than Goku's strong Tohoku accent, being a great display not only of the subtleties in Nozawa-san's performance that often get overlooked by those less familiar with the Japanese language, but in the impact of Chi-Chi's education towards him, while not being as demanding as with Gohan, It's with Chi-Chi, particularly her death at Boo's hand, foot, that we see another importance of Goten in a failure that required Goku's return, as I've talked of before. Despite his desire to take things more seriously to the extent of perfectly matching Trunks' ki after being in the Room of Spirit and Time, Gotenks is still unable to get serious in the manner Goku would, due to the boys not being used to the stakes of the situation, and, more than that, likely viewing the Dragon Balls as something that would mitigate this. Gotenks is a character that can be seen as a subversion, parody or satire of many aspects of Toriyama's writing decisions, and this aspect of him highlights the fan misconception that the Dragon Balls would be an instant fix, whereas the limitations of them make the consequences far from void. Though I have praised Goten's portrayal in the Majin Boo arc, I concede that he becomes a more well-realised character when able to step outside of Goku's image. Not so much in the superhero arc of the Super manga, try saying that quickly 5 times, where he's mainly just Trunks' wingman, but the conclusions of the manga show a natural evolution in his character, along with why Goku chose to entrust the hopes of the next generation in Oob. Goten's personality could be considered that in the series closest to a typical child, which makes his growth into a typical teenager concerned with dating and avoiding responsibilities very natural. Him having neglected Shulgyo adds to this, in the energetic nature of childhood having subsided, and him having resigned himself to putting hopes in his father against future threats. A constant responsibility that couldn't be eternally upheld, and was part of what had Goku desire to find the perfect opponent and successor in Oob. This continues in GT, with it mainly being the same beyond us actually seeing Goten go on dates, though the moments focusing on him add some fairly good points to his character and the overarching plot. His fight against Baby shows the overconfidence the Dragon Team's successors and progression have built up, with how unlikely a new threat challenging them cropping up would seem to be even after the events with Boo. And him getting possessed by Baby helped progress the plot in Baby's path of achieving his goal in possessing Vegeta, requiring taking over Gohan, which wouldn't have been possible without him first forcing him to radiate his full power, through appealing to Gohan's care for his brother's body. Though GT unfortunately didn't give Goten the time to shine against more than those who are now fodder villains, the depths of his latent power are still acknowledged, with Vegeta believing it possible he, Trunks, and Gohan could eventually be capable of defeating Super E Shenlong with enough time and effort. With GT's finale having the Dragon Team acknowledge they must protect the universe without reliance on Goku or the Dragon Balls, it is likely he at the very least prepared himself to take things more seriously and uphold his father's ideals. Overall, though not as interesting as the other major faces of the Dragon Team, or even his best friend, Son Goten still stands as more than a simple generic kid version of Goku, in helping reflect several characters, and exploring rules and themes of the series that help show the Majin Boo Arc's underrated qualities as a finale to the manga. Thank you if having watched all the way to the end. If wanting the characters' importance covered in a future video of this style, mention them in the comments and I'll see what I can do. Check out this playlist for prior Dragon Ball analyses as well, as a follow-up on Goten's importance. For those who watch my What If videos, I will do one in the near future concerning how his absence would affect things drastically.